If we're going to be men, the first thing we got to do is take responsibility for why our women feel the way they feel.
Right.
You're going to have to understand that the way in which you talk to black men in America will not be tolerated over there.
Why the fuck is it tolerated?
It's not tolerated here. That's what we're trying to tell them.
Well, over here, I want to say this to us, because we try to act like the way sisters treat us doesn't have a history that we are not at least partly responsible for. Let's be honest. The black woman has had to hold down the black house by herself, although imperfectly. She's had to do it by herself since the mass incarceration of black males began in the 1970s. You understand me? Most of our children are raised by a single mother right now. And it has been that way for about 50 years. So when a sister says, I don't need a man, because she couldn't find one strong enough to hold her down. Or when you meet a woman and you say, sister, I'm strong enough to be your man. You ain't got to work or you ain't got to pay the bills or whatever. Pull back, I got you. And she can't do it because all the other men before you who disappointed her. So what I'm saying is, black men, we got to be patient with our women because we created that personality. We created that, and then we want to act like we didn't play a role.
We have to be held accountable for their poor selection.
No, you have to be held accountable. No, you have to be held accountable because they have a poor selection. See, what you're saying, you're selecting a poor mate. And what I'm saying is they don't have much to select one, so of course you're going to end up with a poor mate. And why is she going to end up with a poor mate? Because we as black men are not raising black boys to be the men that our women need. We are not. They out there killing themselves right now. What we doing about it? Unemployed black males, what we doing about it? Pants sagging, weed smoking, what we doing about it? Black men are not raising black boys to be the men our community needs. That is 100% our fault. What I'm saying is she got a right to be angry with us. She got a right to be angry with us. We have not been on our job as black men. If the men are the providers, what have we been providing for our community? I'm not speaking to you individually.
Yes.
Because you may be a damn good father. You may be a damn good father. You may be a damn good father, but guess what? What are we doing for the community? What are we doing for the children who don't have a father? You don't think the black woman got a right to be angry when she's been raising 2/3 of the kids by herself for 50 years? And the minute she raised her voice, we say she's not humble enough? She had to become masculine to survive the rape, the molestation, the domestic abuse. Are you telling me you can't see how we created that?
I understand that, but she needs to be more
If we was loving
selective.
our women and taking care of our women, do you think she would be like that? That personality has a history.
If she's picking Pookie and Ray Ray instead of
You're making her a scapegoat.
No, she's picking a scapegoat.
No.
There's good quality men that they ignore.
Why she even got it? Why is there even a Pookie in the selection?
You gotta ask her that.
No. I'm gonna tell you why there's a Pookie in the selection.
Why?
Because black men have abandoned black boys and have allowed social media, white media, athletes, and rappers to raise them. That's why she with Pookie. If we never allowed Pookie to develop, she would not have a Pookie. If we're going to be men, the first thing we got to do is take responsibility for why our women feel the way they feel.
All right. A whole lot was said there. A whole lot was said there. Actually, let me run this like this. Here we go. A whole lot was said there. And, while I don't agree with Dr. Umar that often, with this one I do. And the main reason I do is because I feel like men lead and women follow. And so if men lead, women are going to be a reflection of these men's leadership. And if women are not picking, are having a hard time picking good men, it's a reflection of their men's leadership. But before I go on, who's jumping in here?
Yeah, let me take a chop at this lumber. So, this is in my experience with women, this tracks. This is nothing new. I'm responsible for my poor behavior. And when she has poor behavior, I'm also responsible for her poor behavior. With Dr. Umar, I'm just wondering, like, does he get paid to run down black men, or is this volunteer work? Like, is there a dollar in this for him?
I'm pretty sure.
I really struggle to synthesize this. So, because every single dude in the black community is not, thorough, then the women who do pick Pookie and Ray Ray, as they call them, that's my fault too. So what we're saying is we're removing all agency from the women. Somehow I didn't raise the fatherless boys in my community up to the standard where a black woman can respect them. This goes back to, and ladies, I beg your pardon, please don't take this the wrong way, but the accountability and women in the whole, I just find to be mutually exclusive. Like, how is that our fault too? Can somebody help me out?
I don't think it's necessarily our fault, because I'm not gonna negate what he's saying in response of men do have, I feel like, a hard time struggling with taking accountability in general. And I don't know what it is with my generation personally. I feel like a lot of men don't know how to lead. But on the other note, I feel like when it comes to women as a whole, picking the Pookie and picking, the not great men, I feel like that stems from like a deeper issue, not necessarily relationships they had with men, but the first relationship that we know as young girls, and that's the relationship that we have with our father. So it kind of stems back from that. And, when we grow up and stuff, like we always go back to like, situations, or like even our parents, situations we've seen, or, family relationships and different things like that. And some of us, we do it subconsciously or consciously when it comes to picking men, So I don't think women have a hard time with accountability. I just feel like some women just aren't aware.
Yeah, I tend to agree with him, and here's the reason. I don't think that there's somewhere you have to go back to. There's some source, right? You go back, like he said, in the 1970s when there stopped being fathers in the home, and a lot of that stems from welfare, and when there was a crutch for welfare, black men weren't needed. Now, I think it's two parts there. Now it's women who feel like, oh, I don't need a man, and then black men, feeling like they're getting away and don't have to raise their sons or daughters or anything, right? But there has to be some responsibility on men who aren't willing to raise their kids. Like there's far too much of that in our community, and to say that that's not a factor, I think would be just ill-advised. Like there's no way it's not a factor in it. But to lay all the blame, yeah, maybe not. Like I think there's still some accountability that everybody's got to have for themselves. But man, like black women have probably had one of the roughest goals for whatever type of race, genders out there. There's a lot of negativity in the people, in anybody's mind, in a black man, in white men, and everybody. Like there's always this negative stigma on black women. It's starting to change, and there's a lot that's going on to further that. But the fact that it was there, for so long, yeah, there's a lot that they're having to fight through. So, part of it, I feel like it's true from both ways. Like there is an issue where there's nothing to choose from because we're not, black men aren't in the homes and we're raising, kids or raising kids. But there's also go back to when women felt like, okay, I don't need them because I've got this wealth or I've got this check that's going to be the leader and support me, and not, and men just kind of falling off from there. So no, that's my take.
Miss Gigi, what's your take?
Oh man, I just have so many thoughts, so I'm going to try to streamline them all. But to answer the question, are Black men responsible for the state of Black relationships? I'm going to say no. I think Black men and women are responsible for the state of Black relationships. I think people aren't choosing their partners well. I think that we're guided now based upon looks and lust and not morals and values and character. So you get with this person and find out that you guys don't have anything in common, and then you bring a child into the world and you don't get along. And then that becomes the generational divisiveness of the Black home. So I just think that the usage of social media, and this is what I did agree with Dr. Umar, has really, really, really had a negative impact on the state of Black relationships in a whole. I see a lot of people projecting not based upon their personal experiences, but based upon what they've seen on social media. So if someone is to set a standard like, oh, you know what, I'm not going to engage into relations with you until I get to know you better or until we're in a relationship, then there's sometimes this negative connotation or stigma that you might be like stuck up, or you may be too high maintenance. Where back in the day, that's what our relationships, principles, and values were set upon. So I think that people are utilizing social media and applying it to their life. And I think that we're missing that there is a agenda, and there is almost like a gender wars in the Black community. I don't see this with any other race. I'm in a lot of different circles and settings, and I don't see this amongst any other race but our own. So I think we have to hold each other accountable. I think we have to make sure that even if you don't like, the mother of your child or the father of your child, you figure out a way to co-parent for the sake of the child. And I think we have to do better at picking our mates so that we can do marriage and hopefully one day end this cycle of broken homes that are plagued in our communities.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well said.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. I agree that let me throw myself back here in the middle real quick. I agree that people don't pick their mates right. One of the things that I always say is, the work in a relationship doesn't happen in the relationship. It happens to find the relationship. Meaning if you do the work to find the person who, is looking the same direction as you and is aligned with you, you'll have a much more chance of having a happy relationship. But I can't negate the responsibility of men being leaders, right? When you, Gigi, when you just said like, most people need to find someone who they they get together and then they have sex and then they have kids and then they realize that they don't like each other. I believe that starts with men, because men lead, and if men are going to lead, then everything else falls on our shoulders after that. Like if I'm at work and I lead a team and my team messes up, my boss ain't gonna go to my team and go, "Why'd you guys mess up?" My boss is gonna come to me. He's gonna be like, "Hey, you know what? Your team screwed up. I don't know if you're the right guy. I don't know if you're a good leader." So leaders don't get to shank or shark or whatever the word is. They don't get to. They don't get to
Shuck. You
shuck.
try
Yeah,
shuck.
whatever. Yeah, whatever. Subvert responsibility. And as a Black man in the Black community, I think that Black men in the past um, didn't lead. And now we start to see this whole culture of women having children alone, women growing, having single families, women struggling, trying to raise kids. And then those boys grow up very feminized because they don't have a man in their life and they don't become leaders. And then you have this whole death spiral. But I think, ultimately that responsibility falls on the shoulders of Black men, because as a man, we are supposed to lead. And if you're going to lead, then that means, yes, you're responsible for you and the people who follow you. You are responsible for them. So
But
I have
but
to I have
but
to
if
agree with
she's not
Dr. Umar
following,
just on that principle.
so but you're saying you have to lead who's following you. But the example you just gave, where two people meet, have sex, and have a baby, there was a step that you skipped in between there,
Hmm.
between sex and the baby. Now, once you've had sex and fertilized an egg, you're not in no leadership position no more. She can do what she wants. She basically holds your future in limbo, between the family court and whatever the hell else she wants to do. Like, she's not under your leadership. She got pregnant. She, basically got pregnant without a wedding ring. She mismanaged her womb, and now all of us have to be, held responsible for that. I can't be responsible for that.
I mean, that goes two ways. I mean, like, we both mismanaged the womb. Like, I think the Black community has a big issue with like sex and not understanding the full consequence of sex. Like,
I get that. I'm saying
so
once
early.
you've had sex and the pregnancy starts, I can't decide that we're not having this kid. She can, but I can't.
But I think that goes back to your leadership. Like, at the end of the day, if you're a leader, you don't have sex with women who aren't on the same page with you.
Right.
So
Okay.
as a leader,
so we're getting into idealism now, right? Or are we gonna have a real talk about how men genuinely act with their penises?
It takes two to tango.
We only, huh?
It takes two to tango.
Listen, I'm just saying.
I get that platitude.
So like prior, you kind of, but you have to have these conversations with people. If you're laying down with somebody, you have to realize potentially the consequences that can come with it, whether you're having safe sex or not. I mean, there's always that 1% chance that it's not going to be the outcome that you want. So you have to realize, well, if we're going to decide to do this with each other, we got to be okay with, whatever relationship we're willing to have with each other after that.
No, you're right.
Happens,
you're 100% right about that. What I'm saying is that she's not under your leadership at that point. If she's not wearing your last name, at that point, she's driving. And, not to stereotype women drivers, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Kay.
Okay, kind of.
Yeah, So the issue with that is your decision comes with her decision. Like Kay said, as the leader, like, you can decide what you're going to do at that point, and with full understanding of who that person is, what she has to offer you, what type of relationship you have. But in our community, the sex trophy is so major that, like, we're willing to forsake all of that. I had my son at 20 years old, like, thinking I was kind of cool at that time. That shit wasn't cool. Like, nothing, just what we had wasn't how it's supposed to be done. But in our community, that's like, it was a trophy at the time. Like, I'm not saying like I won something, but like sex was the ultimate. So we were completely like backwards. But that's the problem with, like, in the Black community, we got to start to change that culture to where we don't feel like that's the ultimate goal. Like, if that's not the ultimate goal, then we have less pregnancies, we have less failed relationships, we have less of the fatherless kids. I mean,
right. But I think we kind of moved the goalpost there, because just because as a man we act irresponsibly, like practically, right? Like, if we're talking about idealism versus practicalism or practicalities, idealism says, yeah, be a leader, be a leader, be a leader. This is how leaders act, right? But every now and then, we're practical and we fall short of being leaders, and we don't act like leaders. So just because we don't act like leaders doesn't mean that we all of a sudden don't have that responsibility, right? So if I'm like, hey, I'm about to go hit this raw, I don't care, I'm not acting like a leader.
Raw is law. Raw is law. Let's go.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, at that point, I'm not acting like a leader. You know what I'm saying? And you have to accept that reality of, oh, okay, now I'm not leading. But if I was leading, then I wouldn't be hitting raw without putting my last name on her, or I wouldn't be having babies out of wedlock or anything like that. Like, we can say, yeah, there's times where we don't act like leaders, but that doesn't give us a pass for not being leaders. It is what it is. If we're going to be men who lead, then we have to behave like that. If we're not, then we have to say, hey, I wasn't leading, I fell short of that, and accept that. And that's just what it is.
Yeah, I would just say a couple of things. Like, not everybody is a leader. Just because you're a man does not mean that you are a leader, and it doesn't mean that you're a good leader at that. And so some people, unfortunately, aren't meant to be leaders. That's why you have CEOs, and that's why you have employees. And I'm not saying that a woman is meant to be a leader, but I am saying that every man is not a leader. If you don't even know the direction that you're going in your life and what you want, then how am I supposed to follow that? So I think we have to take a couple of notches back and figure out the foundation. Do you want the same things before you lay down with a person? Do you want marriage, or do you just want kids? Because those are two different things. And what I come to find these days is there are men that do want children, but they don't want wives. They want this great woman to raise their kids and they want to procreate with her, but they don't want the marriage and the responsibility that is attached to that. And so there used to be a time way back when you got someone pregnant, you married them, which kind of, eliminates the divisiveness in the home. That is not really where we are today. So in order to speed it up to today, I think people have to be intentional to make sure that when you are involved with someone, they want the same things as you, and not be so quick to get into bed. Because like I said earlier, people are led by lust and not morals, values, and character. Mm-hmm. And so that's one. The second thing on that is a lot of men were not, I can't say a lot. Well, statistics don't lie. A lot of men were not raised with a Black father in the home. And so that trickles down. So when you talk about leadership, who are you learning your leadership skills from? You have to be taught in some way. And so in order for our kids not to be, and I don't have children, by the way, but I was raised in a 2-parent household and I love my Black daddy. And it's, listen, it's hard because I've seen an example of, I've seen a prime example of what leadership looks like. And I don't see that a lot today. And so I think when we talk about leadership, we have to understand and really look at who did you learn leadership from? Was it social media, as Dr. Umar said? Was it your father? Was it your mother? Who did you learn leadership from? Who did you learn your morals from, your value system? Mm-hmm. Because people be to lead and want you to follow them, and they don't even know the direction that they're going in.
Yeah, no, I agree. There are people who don't know how to lead. And I feel like if you are not sure that you know how to lead, you probably shouldn't date. Or exactly. you probably should tell people, women in the beginning, hey, I'm not trying to lead. I'm just out here having fun. And that's what it is.
But they think they're
but dudes do tell women that.
But I also
not in those words.
But I also disagree, because most men can be leaders. You just have to, like you said, you just have to find the person who wants to follow you, because not everybody's going to follow you, right? But most men can be leaders. There is a woman out there who will follow you. Now, are you going to take the time to be diligent and find that woman? Hey, I don't know. Maybe not. But there are women out there who will follow some men who have a low level of leadership, who have a medium level of leadership, and who have a high level of leadership. It just depends on that person and if they are cool with your type of leadership. And like I said, at the end of the day, like you don't necessarily have to get married. You just have to be, like you said, you have to be aligned with the person on what you guys want. You guys could maybe want a relationship that doesn't involve the government. I know people like that, who are like, hey, I don't want to involve the government, but I still want to have a household with a woman where we have children and we just don't have the government involved with it. Hey, if that's what you want to do, if that's what you want to do, listen.
That's not.
We all have our different opinions about it. But
real quick, Kate. Real quick.
Go ahead.
We almost got a divorce on tax grounds only. If we could have saved money tax wise, we were about to get a divorce. So that's not bullshit. That's real.
Wait. I didn't catch that. So say it again. You almost got,
like, if we could have done better, like for me filing as like head of household and her filing as some other instead of like married, or however we had to do for married, we would have got a divorce and just ran it that way.
No, I get what you're saying, but as far as like a nuclear family in the household, there's not this funny bunny kind of shit where it's like, oh, we don't want the government and all. Now fuck all that. When I'm in a coma and somebody got to decide to leave the plug in or pull it out, they're not gonna be like, oh, bring his sneaky link in here, let her make a decision. No, fuck all that.
Right?
Is it your wife or not?
Marriage to do that, you can have.
No, you actually do.
Nah,
I'm sorry.
You can have someone. You can have someone who makes decisions for you. You don't have to be married. I make decisions for my mom. We're not married, so you don't have to be married.
You're next of kin.
But you don't have to be married. There's different ways that you can go about making decisions for people if they're
The
incapacitated.
person that
You
makes the
don't.
decisions
They
for
don't have
you
to
is your
be.
next
They
of
don't have to
kin.
be your. They don't have to be your next of kin. They absolutely
No,
don't.
no,
I
it
know
it,
this for.
it,
I know
it
this for
defaults to
certain.
your next of kin unless you specifically go in there and do what needs to be done
Correct.
to say that.
Correct. You
But
can.
who's
You can.
doing that? Most people ain't doing that. Most
Listen,
people don't
People
got.
who
listen.
don't get married are.
My whole thing is hey, if marriage is for you, you can do that. If you want something different, that's cool too. I'm not throwing the baby out with the bathwater just because of a certain term or legality. That's all I'm
If you
saying.
want
Now,
something different, it's called an out of wedlock baby. That's what it's called. Your child was made within marriage or without. It's
That's
not. I
okay.
mean,
fine.
if we're
An
gonna
I
out of
call
don't.
things
wedlock
I
what they
don't.
baby
are,
in
I
a
that's
think
a
in a
we're. I
defined
think
Christian
we're.
term.
household still works.
Yeah, I think we're still just talking about the nuclear family. And at the end of the day, if you want to get married or not, that's up to you. But this conversation isn't about getting married. We can actually have another conversation about getting married and if
All
you
right, fair
should or
enough.
should not.
But
But it
I think
kind of is though, because we're
the
talking about
conversation.
the breakdown of the home. And what's happening is, as you said earlier, there's a lot of women that are raising children by themselves. And then there's, men that, are weekend dads. And here's the thing, which is something that we haven't talked about. My friend, her dad raised them. I don't see also a lot of men that are like, I want the kids to live with me. That is an option. I don't see that option being presented. It's always like, oh, yeah, she has the kids, and they're saying all these different things about this mother who has taken the time to raise these children. When I have not personally seen a lot, I've seen it sometimes, men saying, you know what, I want my kids to live with me. I'm going to fight
but
for my
that's
kids
part of
to
that
live.
is because family court sides with the mother so heavily that she would have to be so
Times have
unfit.
changed, though.
Right.
Times have changed.
Not that
Nah,
drastically.
not really.
Not
Not
that
really.
No,
I
no,
drastically.
can.
I'm in the court systems, right? So times have changed. And unless you're actually saying that you know someone personally that has fought for their kids, like, and went to the family court system, then when it's just
I
hearsay.
do.
Okay, what was their
No, it's not.
experience?
No, it's not hearsay. I live in this world too. Like
Yeah, but
that's a thing.
a lot of times people are saying things that they've regurgitated on social media. But I personally, and what I've seen in my work and personal life, I have not seen a lot of men say, I want to fight for my kids or even take them to the court system. It's just this whole idea like the mom's going to win. But you don't even
Well, I
know.
mean, I'm not heavy on social media. You would struggle to find me on social media
Well, it's
if you
not about
look.
you. I'm
I'm
talking about
talking
generally speaking.
right, but what
Okay.
I'm saying is that when I say that women have to be unfit for the father to get the kid, usually, not I'm not talking about 100% of the time, but as a rule, if all things are equal and both parents are fit, how many judges are taking the kids from their mom? I'm not even saying they should,
Yeah.
but that's not common.
Yeah, at best you're going to get 50-50 at best.
Right.
The woman has to be literally on drugs or some type
Yeah,
of health risk to the children for the father to get, full or sole custody. Other than that, either the mother will have a larger percentage of custody of the children or it's a 50-50 custody. But I think this conversation was mostly about just the leadership of men and just to bring it back, the leadership of men from yesteryear to today has absolutely gone down. And for me, I think Dr. Umar, is telling a little bit of the truth. Like I said, I disagree with Dr. Umar on a lot of stuff, but I do believe that the leadership of men today is a lot lower than it was in the past, and it's something that men of today need to work on. I definitely believe that.
by the way, we seen that school yet?